Deemed rehabilitated and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to this Thursday edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I got several questions or several topics that I'd like to speak to you about. This is your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Will your airline pilot die suddenly? Also, I don't want to let the Biden administration get away with the fact that this guy, in my opinion, stole some documents while he was vice president of the United States in order to give his son access to classified information. That's my belief. I want to continue to cover that. We cannot allow the media to sweep that under the rug. And by the way, the left is starting to come at Biden. They want him gone. He's going to stick his heel or whatever in the ground. He's not trying to go anywhere, but we'll see if the left or the Democratic left, the Democratic communists or the Democrat communists have a say. Will they be able to move him along? He's going to try his best to stay. And also this debt ceiling. I want to talk about that. These are I think the biggest stories in the news today that we need to touch on. Okay, so first, let's start here before we go to the airline pilots and you asking the question, will your airline pilot die suddenly? And guys, before you think, okay, here's this guy, he's just being hyperbolic, just talking smack, trying to get clicks, trying to get people to listen. No, I unfortunately, I've got some stats to share with you that are pretty freaking scary. And my goal isn't to be a fear mongerer, but if we're not paying attention to the news, or if you're not paying attention to the news, I don't know what to tell you. The news out there is not very happy. Let's put it that way. And we need to be alarmed and hopefully motivated to get our butts into action and fight against what this administrative state in the Biden administration is doing to us, trying to destroy this country, trying to silence us, trying to get us to bow down to them. So anyway, we got to talk about all of this stuff. But first, before I do want to mention or ask you to please subscribe to my podcast wherever podcasts are found. Again, go to rumble.com and youtube.com. Guys, because we're going to be talking about the jabs today, I'm going to try to be really careful here, but we may only be able to put this on Rumble. We will see, depending on how I start flowing here, to be frank with you. But rumble.com, The Carl Jackson Show. Guys, I really do need you to subscribe there. Follow us on Rumble. I would really, really, really appreciate it. Follow us on YouTube, The Carl Jackson Show on Rumble and YouTube, and then get the podcast wherever you go to find your podcast or listen to your podcast, The Carl Jackson Show. Also, The Carl Jackson Show on all social media outlets. Join me on Twitter. Join me on Getter. Join me on Facebook. Wherever I am, The Carl Jackson Show, True Social as well. Also, I want to introduce you to my new sponsor, forpatriots.com. You guys have heard me talking about them for the last couple of days. But guys, here's the way that I see it. I live in Florida. There's hurricanes out here. There's times where our power has been out for days. And, sometimes you can't necessarily get to the store, or you may not have all the supplies you need. You want to make sure that you have a survival kit that's there, that's ready, that can last. Maybe there's a bigger disaster coming in. We don't know our way in the future. Go to forpatriots.com. A food shortage could be coming even right here in the U.S. You see what China is trying to buy up our lands. You see these World Economic Forum people, all these people that are trying to basically make sure that cows aren't farting and the farmers are going out of business. We live in scary times. I want you to be prepared, whether it's drought, inflation, or even new policies that are pushing America's food supply near the brink. I want you to be prepared. That's where forpatriots.com comes in. You can create your stockpile, the best-selling 4Patriot survival food kits. It's not ordinary food. We're talking a good 25 years super survival food, all right? Hand-packed in a family-owned facility right here in the USA. 200 American jobs, by the way. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack really easily. They have different delicious breakfast meals, lunches, dinners that are ready to go in 20 minutes. All you have to do is add boiling water, simmer, and serve them. right now. You can go to 4patriots.com. By the way, that's the number 4. Use the promo code Carl for 10% off of your first purchase. That's right, 10% off of your first purchase, including this 3-month survival kit. You'll get a year-long guarantee plus free shipping on orders that are over $97. They're called 4 Patriots, the number 4 Patriots, because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com. Use the promo code Carl for your for the 10% off your first initial purchase. That's 4patriots.com. Promo code Carl. Start building your stockpile today. And don't forget also my friends at MyPillow, Mike Lindell, creating tons of or lots of American jobs, American manufacturing. That's what we want to see. We want to rebuild this nation. Thank God MyPillow is doing it right now. They have a deal for this 6-piece towel set, $39.98. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, click on that radio listener square at the top of the page, enter my name, CARL, or give them a call, 1-800-858-0263 while supplies last, 800-858-0263. American jobs, American manufacturing, products that actually help you sleep, nice footwear, nice blankets, nice sheets, and also the MyPillow towels. So please go crazy there. You can use the promo code Carl to get, discounts up to 66%. All right, now let's get into the stories of the day. Again, I want to talk about will your airline pilot drop dead or suddenly die? It is a scary thought, but it's a conversation worth having. Also, I want to talk about the debt ceiling and so much for Biden's normalcy. The left is starting to come after Biden. There was a story that I read, or a column that I read the other day from Salon. Let's see if I could pull it up. I wasn't going to go here, but I do want to go here real quick. The title is, and this is from salon.com. This isn't a Democrat or liberal website. This is a left-wing website. But honestly, I go to them because I understand what the left thinks when I read them, and I want to understand how the left thinks. And frankly, so should you. And that's because we want to make sure that we're able to sharpen our skills and our ability to not just argue against them, but we want to defeat them when it comes to narrative. We want to be able to explain why our ideas are better for the country, and not just for the country, but for your neighbor, for individuals, right? That's what we want to be able to do. So this hat tip to salon.com. You're not going to hear me say that often. Here's the column of the title by Norman Solomon, a big lib. Big lefty. Does anyone still think Joe Biden is Democrats' best option for 2024? The left is getting nervous, guys. I want you to understand this. The left is getting nervous. I'll just read just a bit of this for you so that you understand what's going on. He says, of course, Trump's scandals are worse. Lie. But this debacle should make clear that Democrats can't afford Joe Biden. And I won't opine on every time they down Trump here, because they do it every other sentence, it seems like, in a lot of these columns, right? Because they never want to just focus on how crappy their candidates are. But beyond their candidates, actually, let me say this. Their candidates don't matter as much. Their policies suck. Their policies will destroy the country. The column goes on. For many months, conventional media wisdom has told us that Joe Biden would be the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump in 2024 because he did it before. That claim has always rested on shaky ground, after all. Trump was the ultimate symbol of the status quo when he lost in 2020, as Biden would be in next year's election. That's hardly auspicious when polling shows that the current electorate believes the country is off on the wrong track rather than heading in the right direction by a margin of more than 3-1. So you got the majority of the country that thinks the country is headed in the wrong direction. I was aware of this poll. Forgotten Man, hat tip to him, had given me this poll when I was sitting in for Officer Tatum, had read through it a little bit, but it's so early. I don't know what to think of polls like that, and I'll tell you why. Because everyone will say that the country is headed in the wrong direction, right? Most people have enough common sense, I don't care, Democrat, Republican, whomever, to realize things aren't so good right now. Inflation is high. Unemployment numbers aren't great, even though Biden is lying. There's still over 3 million people that have not returned to the workforce post-COVID. So people understand that times are bad, but you look at polls like this, or at least I do, and I sit there and I think, well, a lot of these people that say the times are bad are still going to vote for Biden if he runs in 2024, or they're going to vote for someone that looks younger, sounds better, but espouses the same dumb ideas. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that poll, but that poll is out there. Most of America thinks we're headed in the wrong direction. The question is, what will they do about it? Sadly, I tend to believe they won't do a damn thing. The most of them. No, that's just me being real with you. All right. That's why we have to get to work as the American people to make sure that we educate people all across the country when it comes to constitutional ideals, Judeo-Christian ideals, Christian ideas. I do believe this is a Christian nation and why it works better that way. But the columnist, again, gets really, you can tell he's getting really nervous. He says, but now the bottom has dropped out of that, that time worm spin for Biden in the wake of the discovery of unsecured classified documents that are under his control, the appointment of a special counsel to investigate him, and the botched handling of this widening scandal by the White House. They're concerned about this because that takes away this veneer that that Biden is some honest guy, the straight shooting guy, the calm in the midst of a storm. He's not the guy they pretended he was. And frankly, if you did a modicum of homework before he got elected, you would have known this isn't true. The guy has said some of the most racist things ever in modern political history. I remember Breitbart outlined, just tons of things, audio and lines that Joe Biden has said where you would think it was a KKK, a Grand Cleo or whatever they're called in the KKK in modern day times. But he gets away with it. Why? Just because he's Democrat. It's amazing to me that Democrats, that black Democrats are quick to call people like me sellout Uncle Tom, although I don't care. But regardless, they are when they're the ones that supported a guy that sounds like he's straight out of the KKK, not out of Compton, but straight out of the KKK. So the article goes on. Yes, Trump's handling of classified documents was far more egregious when compared to what we know of Biden so far. We know that's a doggone lie. I said I won't comment, but I have to. All right, I'm sorry, can't help it. We know that's a doggone lie just based on the fact that Trump was the former president of the United States, and Biden, in my opinion, stole these documents when he was VP. All right. So he illegally took the documents. Trump could take the documents and then he could go back and forth, negotiate, debate with the National Archives. Biden didn't have that authority because he was not president at the time. But anyway, it goes on. But looking ahead, Biden campaign would be incapable of making an effective criticism of Trump on the issue. Common sense, right? He says we can already see how having Biden at the top of the ticket would be a serious liability up and down the ticket. Awkward barely begins to describe the position in which recent developments have put leading Democrats. An early preview came just a few days ago, and when Representative Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, appeared on CNN and did the best she or just anybody about any other Democrat could do under the circumstances. Now, he mentions not just her example, but a few, but I'll only mention hers. Certainly, there's a political problem for all of us as Democrats. That's what Jayapal says. I'm quoting here. She acknowledged that after being confronted with her tweet from 4 months ago that condemned Trump's conduct on the classified documents. She goes on to say, and I quote, but I do think there are significant differences, and I do think it's important to look at the fact that this president is cooperating completely with the investigation. Now, that's the narrative. I don't know how the hell you're completely cooperating with an investigation when someone has to leak that you have stolen documents at your house, and it's been 6 months since you've had them at the Penn Biden Center, and now at your personal residence. We've had the news come out on November 2nd. They found some documents on November 2nd, December 20th, and January 11th and 12th of this year. And yet the Biden administration tried to keep it on the down low, but they couldn't. The news was seeping out. But Jayapal goes on to say, I do think there are significant differences. Okay, I read that. And I do think it's important to look at the fact that the president is cooperating completely with the investigation. That's the left's narrative. Biden is cooperating. Trump isn't. So there are significant differences. It doesn't take away my concern about the overall situation. And I do think we have to continue to look at the facts. Guys, I can go on about this. The writer talks about how Bloomberg reported the decision to wait more than 2 months until after the midterm elections to disclose the initial discovery of classified documents at Biden's property. This is a huge concern for the left. And I got to tell you this, if Biden hadn't screwed up majorly here, I think they would probably roll with Biden, and they may have to roll with Biden. Here's what you have to understand. Biden is a puppet in the White House, but here's the truth. It doesn't matter if it's Gavin Newsom. It doesn't matter if it's Kamala Harris. Any one of them are going to be the puppets for the George Soroses of the world. That's just the way that it works. But this news is absolutely big, and it is terrifying for the left. It is terrifying, and we cannot let this go, and we should not let this go. This is one of the biggest scandals in American history, particularly when it comes down, or political history when it comes down to a president. And we should not stop talking about it. The left wants to sweep it under the rug. They want to pretend as if they hired this special counsel and Robert Hur to get down to it so we don't have to worry about a thing. No, we've seen what special counsels do in the past. We know about the Robert Mueller special counsel. What's the name of the guy that's looking into the left, the FBI Russia hoax? Can you remember his name? Yeah, me neither right now. That's what I mean. The special counsels, unfortunately, seem to come into play oftentimes to sweep evidence under the rug rather than to expose the evidence. And that's exactly what we do not want to see here. So let me give you another column. This from The Spectator. So much for Biden's return to normalcy. Hat tip to David Marcus of The Spectator. Biden was supposed to be this different guy, right? This honest guy, this decent guy, this unifying guy. Yeah, right. It is not happening. And the left are concerned about this. Here's Biden's lawyers have essentially confirmed this. Number one, his lawyers have all but confirmed that he did illegally possess classified documents. Why the hell were they there looking for, searching through them? The American people have serious questions, in my opinion, that deserve to be answered. And take this, Biden has not bothered to proclaim his innocence. You guys realize that? Why hasn't Joe Biden, if he's innocent, why hasn't Joe Biden said, I'm innocent of this? What are in those documents? We know that there's stuff on Iran, Ukraine, what was that? The UK. I guarantee you there's stuff on Russia and China. This is the big guy. This is the big guy. As Tony Bobolinsky reported, this is the big guy. The big guy that was getting his cut. And we cannot allow this story to be swept underneath the rug. Let's not conflate Trump, a former president, with a vice president Biden at the time, who had no business getting his crusty fingers on classified documents. We cannot let this story go. Carl, I'm tired of this story. Can't we move on? No. Do you understand? The country is at stake. We cannot move on. We need to press harder, as a matter of fact. I want to give you several questions that remain or need to be answered. Now, I'm not an attorney, but listen, these are common sense questions. The Spectator, David Marcus, writes about them. They deserve to be answered, in my opinion. Let's go through them. And then I'll promise we'll get to the airline pilots and to the debt ceiling. We make them short and sweet. I'll give you some examples why you should be concerned, why you should be calling your congressman on all of these issues, frankly, including the debt ceiling. It's time to stop this nonsense. All right. So here's some of the questions that need to be answered. Here's the first question that Biden must answer when it comes to the stolen documents, in my opinion, that found their way at his personal residence, that found their way at a think tank that he created once he got out of office, right? And money started flowing there from China and so on, et cetera. And it's not really accounted for. It's amazing. But why didn't he demand to know the contents of the classified documents? Isn't that really important? If he doesn't know what's in the classified documents, as the president of the United States now, the commander-in-chief of the United States, wouldn't he want to know what's in the documents, especially if they were found on his property? Doesn't that make sense? Why is it that the commander-in-chief, you have to ask yourself this question, why is it that the commander-in-chief does not want to know what was found in the classified documents that were on his properties? That's a very, very important question. What is in those documents? Why won't they tell us? It only leads to more speculation. It only leads to more conspiracy theory. Chances are they want to hide something, right? We're all smart enough to know that. Why were his personal lawyers conducting the search? How many of you send out your personal attorneys to go conduct a search on your property? Exactly. Nobody does that. No one does that. Why would his lawyers be the ones moving stuff around at the Penn Biden Center, even in his homes? We got reports from the other day. Daily Wire reported that the DOJ weren't necessarily along for the ride when it came to searching at the Penn Biden Center. What? And the DOJ trusted Biden's attorneys to take care of the search, even at his residence. Really? They have that much trust in Biden when he stole, in my opinion, documents while he was vice president. They have a lot of trust in that guy. Or is the DOJ just submissive to Biden? Good question, right? Number 3, did he ever remove classified documents from the White House? Inquiring minds want to know. That's a very simple question. Mr. President, did you, while you were vice president, did you remove documents from the White House? Classified documents. That's a yes or no answer. Number 4, does he recollect the box in his garage? And in his garage, that's in question. We all know that the guy has dementia, but maybe he has times, it looks like he has times of fluidity. So do you recognize or do you recollect the boxes that were in your garage? Oh, no, you don't? If you don't, then how did they get there? Did someone else put them there? Seems like fair and reasonable questions. Number 5, have renovations been done to the house or garage in the last 6 years? I mean, did the paint guy have access to your classified documents? The plumber, the electrician, right? The dog walker, dog sitter, anyone. Did they have access to those documents? Why is it the White House communications team has a problem? They've known the details of this story for weeks. The classified documents at Joe's, the Penn Biden Center, classified documents in his garage, classified documents here, there, everywhere. Why didn't they tell us about this? Because they knew that it would destroy Joe Biden. That's why. Why did Hunter Biden, at the home where the top secret documents were, find in Delaware, claim that residence as his primary residence when it's Joe Biden's place? Why did he do that? Why did he pay the big guy $50,000 a month in rent for his daddy's home? Why did he do it? When I've heard stories out there that he only rented out a room and kitchen space, basically. Why did he do it? 50,000 buckaroonies. And why did Joe Biden claim that he paid far less or earned far less in rental income that year? I think he claimed like half of what he actually made in 1 month's period of time. Now, that's a felony. You and I would be locked up, the key thrown away for quite some time. Why doesn't Joe Biden have to answer that question? Why are there no visitors logs at the Delaware house? Is it possible? I want to ask you this. Hunter Biden lived there. Is it possible that Hunter Biden brought some hookers in? Is it possible that crack dealers were there? Around the classified documents, some people that could demand ransom, not ransom, but demand a kickback for not sharing or leaking information. Anyone in the household that a crackhead might associate with that would try to bribe them? These are reasonable questions that have to be answered. When CBS News broke the story, Biden had to address it, but he's still misled by virtue of a mission, according to the column. He acted as if he was shocked top secrets were in his office, but he didn't mention those in his house. Why was he shocked? And why didn't he mention the ones that were in his house, even though he had been aware of it for weeks? And then there's this. The curious situation of Biden's lawyers telling him not to ask what the documents are. Not to ask what the documents are? How do you resolve the situation except to know what the documents are? And then you can explain why you're innocent. This is insane, but these are the questions that we need to ask. So we cannot let go of this story. This is a big story, folks. This story is damning. This story would take any president down. In the past, this story would take any president down. Why is this guy still standing? What does he know? Why won't he tell us? Why won't the media act like like pit bulls on this story, because they should be. This story should not be going away. This story needs to increase in focus. It needs to expand in reporting. This is a story that the left is scared of. And what they want to do is build this narrative that Trump was way worse than Biden. It isn't. It is not working for them. This guy, in my opinion, stole documents when he was vice president because he wanted his son to have access to them so that his son could know, and he could just pretend like I'm not here. His son could know the people that he needed to leverage in order to get money, and the situations he needed to understand. All right, now let me get onto this debt ceiling before we get into whether or not your airline pilots will be dropping out of the sky. And airline pilots, I love you, but you guys really have to fight back. And many of you are. And there's an organization that's committed to that. But all right, so what is the debt ceiling? Basically, the limit set on how much the government can borrow. That's it. How much money the government can borrow. Now, understand that when the government borrows money, you have to pay it back. Let me just mention this. All right, so hat tip to CNS News. Biden's proposal would increase the debt by 57.8%. 57.8%. So we're getting ready. I think that's today. I believe it's today for this debt ceiling showdown is supposed to occur. Excuse me. But here's what Joe Biden said when he sent Congress his budget proposal for the fiscal year 2023 for this year. And he sent it last March. And he tried to sound like he was a fiscal conservative. Here's what he said. All right. Hat tip CNS News, Terrence Jeffrey there. My budget details the next steps forward on our journey to execute a new economic vision, he explains. Reduce costs for families. I want you guys to listen to this. Reduce the deficit and build a better America. Are your costs, have they been reduced as you families out there? You're paying a little less for gas. You're paying a little less for groceries nowadays, thanks to Biden spending more of your money. He goes on to say, and I quote, critically, my budget would also keep our nation on a sound fiscal course. Really? Huh. Is that why the Treasury has had to raise rates continuously? The deficit, he says, is on track to drop by more than $1 trillion this year, the largest ever one-year decline. There's truth to that, but I want to explain that. He goes on to say, under the budget policies, annual deficits would fall to less than half of last year's levels as a share of the economy. Another play on words, as a share of the economy, meaning the government is bringing in a lot of revenue or more revenue, so they don't necessarily have to be concerned with the budget policies as much, right? While the economic burden of debt would remain low, he says. He goes on to say the budget's investments are more than paid for through additional tax reforms that ensure corporations and the wealthiest Americans pay their fair share, allowing us to cut costs for American families, strengthen our economy, and cut deficits and debt by more than $1 trillion over the coming decade. Now, first off, I want to say this: this constant argument that the wealthy need to pay their fair share. Is called greed. It's sin. It's sin. For those of you that want to play a virtue signal and claim that you're these moralists, when you constantly use the argument, the wealthy should pay their fair share, the wealthy should pay their fair share, the wealthy should pay their fair share, it's sin. It's greed. Yes, poor people can be greedy too. This is very, very important. Objective truth. This is your daily dose of objective truth. Remember that. This is your daily dose of objective truth. If you're one of the people out there arguing the wealthy need to pay their fair share, stop it, because you're sinning. All right. First off, the wealthy are. I think it's the top 1% pay 40% of federal income taxes. The top 1% pay nearly 40% of the federal income tax. All right. So that means there's a whole lot of Americans that are working that aren't paying the federal income tax. Right? They pay their Social Security and Medicaid. They pay their payroll taxes, but they're not paying a federal income tax. All right. And it's very important, and very important that we know that. Also, it's very important that we know that big government and big corporations and big tech are in bed together. All right, so we now have fascism that is occurring in this country. But this column goes on to say, but if you scroll down to pages 142 and 143 of Biden's proposal, its last two pages, you will discover table S10, the federal government financing and debt. So what does the federal government financing and debt say? It includes a subsection that carries the headline, quote, debt outstanding end of year. It shows what the Biden administration predicts the total federal debt would be under the terms of Biden's budget proposal at the year of fiscal year 2032. So here are the numbers. At the end of the fiscal year 2021, it indicates that the total federal debt was $28.386 trillion. All right. 28,386 billion. At the end of fiscal year 2032, it predicts the total federal budget will be $44,797 billion. All right, so you're talking about a 57.8% increase in the span of 10 years, basically, give or take. The guy's lying. What does that mean for you? What does it do to the household income? What does it do to your budget? It busts your budget while these people in Washington, D.C. continue to just get rich and continue to use their ideology to send you further into debt. No, we don't need to raise the debt ceiling. Oh, well, listen, we're going to look like bad. We're going to look bad to creditors. And my answer isn't so what? But my answer is this. We have got to stop the bleeding. We've got to stop the bleeding. How long or how much further are we going to go into debt before America completely collapses? Just because you don't see the money, it's like owning a home, right? Except in the reverse. You don't see all the equity you've built, but it's there. Just like that, you don't see all the debt that the federal government is heaping on you, but it's there. And the value of your dollar is lessening as a result. No, we need to call our congressman, 202-224-3121, and tell them we don't want a debt ceiling increase. We want them to get their butts together, and we want them to work out an annual budget. No more of these continuing resolutions where the sky is falling every freaking few months. So tired of it. All right, moving on. Pilots. Airline pilots. Let's get into this. The FAA hat tip to Substack, Steve Kirsch at substack.com, I believe it is. The FAA has very quietly and tacitly admitted that the EKGs of pilots are no longer normal. We should be concerned, he says, very, very concerned. All right, so here's what he says. And we'll go through it as quickly as possible. Please don't forget to support our sponsors, forpatriots.com. If you're looking for survival food supply, your first initial order, you'll get 10% off if you contact them at forpatriots.com, the number 4, Patriots, Patriots, forpatriots.com. Use the promo code Carl. You'll get 10% off your first purchase, including this 3-month survival kit that they're offering. You'll get a year-long guarantee plus free shipping on orders of over $97. Go to the number 4, forpatriots.com, forpatriots.com. Use the promo code Carl, all right? MyPillow.com. Take advantage of the deal, the special they're having, 6-piece towel set for only $39.98. All you have to do is give them a call, 800-858-0263. Use that promo code Carl, 800-858-0263, or go to mypillow.com and put my name at the top of the page in the radio listener square. Once you click on that, and you'll get deals up to 66% off. These towels come with a 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. As a matter of fact, that's across the board for their products, all right? So go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, and don't forget to follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show. If you're listening for the first time, or if you're listening, a regular listener, in some way, shape, or form, but you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe to our podcast. It really does help us move up the charts, and it helps us to get our message out of freedom. We want to restore. We're constitutional constitutional restorationists. We want to restore that. All right, let me get through this. All right, FAA has very quietly, tacitly admitted that EKGs of pilots are no longer normal, and we should be concerned. The story goes, after the vaccine rolled out, the FAA secretly widened the EKG parameter range for pilots so they wouldn't be grounded. Wow. So they wouldn't be grounded. No concern for you and I. But they wanted to make sure that the pilots weren't grounded. They wanted to make sure that they didn't look like liars when it came to the jab. So they basically expanded the numbers on the EKGs. The allowable numbers under the EKGs. He says it looks like the jab gave at least 50 million Americans heart damage. So the FAA just telegraphed the fact that a substantial number of airline pilots have serious heart damage from the jab by widening the EKG parameters for pilots. All right. So when asked about the change, the FAA couldn't justify, he says, and fact checkers aren't going to be able to touch this story. Here's an example story. Jabs are leading causes of coincidences, it seems. He said he just received this note. This is Steve Kirsch speaking from Substack. And he says this is one of his followers, apparently, or subscribers. He says, Steve, I'm a 66-year-old commercial aviator with no previous heart problems. On January 6th, my first class medical was deferred due to second AB block, Mobitz type 2. And he says, I am asymptomatic. He said, I received both Moderna injections, but no booster. He said, I am an ex-endurance athlete, road bike racer, and I don't have and have not taken any routine medication. He says, I'm awaiting an appointment with the cardiologist. He also says the person that subscribes to, I believe, Steve Kirsch's Substack, coincidentally, my wife suffered a severe heart attack in May 2021, 8 days after her first Moderna jab. She had no previous history of heart problems. Here's a summary of what's going on. In October 2022, the FAA guide for aviation medical examiners, the FAA quietly, again, widened the EKG parameters beyond the normal range from a PR max of 0.2 to unlimited. And they didn't widen the range by a little. They widened it by a lot, he says. It was done after the jab rollout. All right. So he says this is extraordinary. They did it hoping nobody would notice. It worked for a while. Nobody caught it. But you can't hide these things for long. And so now people are catching up. So basically, this is an admission from the U.S. government, albeit a tacit one, that the jab has damaged the hearts of our pilots. Guys, these aren't day laborers, okay? You're talking about thousands and thousands of flight hours. You're talking about skills, a trade that you can't just replace someone overnight, where it's not cheap to do so. This is serious. And you know that. You know that if you're listening to this podcast. And apparently it's not just a few pilots. It's a lot of pilots and a lot of damage. The cardiac harm is not limited to pilots, we know. But he says that his best guess right now is that over 50 million Americans sustain some type of heart damage. Now, when you think about that, he says that's a lot of people who will be very upset when they realize that the jab they took to reduce their chance of dying from that virus actually works in reverse, making it more likely that people will get that virus, be hospitalized from that virus and other diseases too, die from that virus, you know what I'm talking about, and other diseases, and also have an excellent chance of getting a lifetime of heart damage due to the jab, not the virus. Man, unbelievable. They fixed the law so none of them aren't liable. Isn't that amazing? Doctors, drug companies, the government, none of them are liable. You take the jab of your own free will. You weren't forced, right? You weren't forced to do it, not to keep your job, not to keep rolling in life, not to go out to eat. You were never forced to do it, but they're not liable. Listen to this. In October 24, 2022, again, the FAA quietly, without any announcement at all, widened the EKG requirements for pilots to be able to fly. The PR, a measure of the heart function, used to be in the range of 0.12 to 0.2. It is now 0.12 to 0.3 and potentially even higher. He says that is a very wide range. It accommodates people who have, guess what? Cardiac injury. Cardiologists, he mentions this cardiologist that apparently he did an interview with that is absolutely appalled by what he's seeing. So why did they make the change? That's a good question, right? Why did they make the change? Why would they do that? I believe it's because they knew what was going on. They knew what was going on. Too many pilots would be grounded. Goes back to his initial point. Too many pilots would be grounded. It would give up the ghost. People would know that these jabs are dangerous. Right? It would be disastrous for commercial aviation. And it would be severely disrupted, he said. Why would they do it quietly? Why would they do it quietly? Without notifying the public, without telling the mainstream media. Why do you think? Why do you think? They don't want people to know. Despite the fact that they know people are dying suddenly, they don't want people to know. They don't want people to know. In other words, he says the jab vaccine or the jab has seriously injured a lot of pilots, and the FAA knows it, said nothing about it because it would tip off the country that the jabs are unsafe, and they're not allowed to do that, right? Why are we sure it was the jab that did it? All right, so he says there are several clues, and I'll mention them real quickly here. That leads us to believe that it was the jab, not the virus that did the damage. They were quiet about it for one. That's an indication. If it was due to the virus, you can be public. But the jab is supposed to be safe. Number two, the timing, October 2022, is late for the virus. If it was due to the virus, it would have happened well before now. They can make changes every month. The jab creates for more injury to the heart than the virus. Listen to that. The jab creates far more injury to the heart than the virus, which creates no added risk per this scale Israeli study of 196,000, a sample size of 196,992 Israelis that were unjabbed and adults after the virus had infected them. All right, so anecdotally, that was number three. Anecdotally, number four, cardiologists only started to notice the damage post-jab. Number five, all the sudden deaths started post-jab. Here's some data supporting a 20% damage estimate around the world. He says he knows from a study of 177 people in Puerto Rico, 97% of whom got the jab, ages 8 to 84. That 70% of those, when screened for cardiac injury, 70% of them out of the 177 Puerto Ricans that got the jab, 70% of them, when screened for cardiac injury using an FDA-approved testing device from Heart Care Core, exhibited objective signs of cardiac injury after post-jab. There was a study done on pilots that indicated heart damage in over 20% of the pilot screen post-jab. There's a Thailand study. The Thailand study showed nearly 30% of kids had abnormal cardiac biomarkers after the jab. But the kids are indestructible, they say, so a 30% injury rate in kids translates into a higher rate for adults. So the VAERS study shows that the cardiac damage happens at all ages, not just the young. Very important to know. Bottom line, he says the most Logical conclusion is that the FAA knows the hearts of our nation's pilots have been injured by the jab that they were coerced into taking. They were forced into taking. The number of pilots affected is huge. The cardiac damage is extensive, and passenger safety is being compromised by the lower standards now to allow pilots to fly, because this would be disastrous for the FAA. Too many planes, again, would be grounded. So the right thing to do would be for the FAA to come clean, but they're not going to do that. The change, he says, from the 200 MSEC, I'm not sure what that stands for, guys, but that's basically the what is it again? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Basically, what's the heart function? All right, I'm not a cardiologist. You cardiologists out there will know what I'm talking about. You can message me. Facebook, The Carl Jackson Show. Twitter, Carl Jackson Show. Probably the best places to message me. All right, but they're going on with this Thailand study again. VAERS show that the cardiac damage happens at all ages, not just the young. The right thing would be for the FAA to come clean. I've mentioned that. All right, so the heart function, 200 MSEC to 300 MSEC and beyond. The changes were found. The changes were made on October 24, 2022. In October. They know the jab is doing something to these pilots. I could go on and on and on, but there's actually, I'll throw it up on Twitter. Everybody should read this column. I'll throw it up on Twitter. Go to my Twitter page, Carl Jackson Show. Hey, listen, subscribe to all my social media. I'll put it across the board. So subscribe to my social media. I will put this up, but they literally have charts of what's being done and what's being required. What was required post-jab compared to what's being required now, or allowed now, I should say. And now, basically the charts show that there can be some element of cardiac damage and where pilots can continue to fly. They know. He says, so it's now 2 rows, one for less than 300 MS. It used to be 200 MS and a second row to handle 300 MS or more. You'll see that in the charts that I post. All right. Also, the Thailand study, more on that. In the U.S., we are not allowed to do lab tests on people before and after the jab. So we can't do lab tests on people before and after the jab, although I think they did with that V-Safe data that they tried to hide from us. The CDC did. All right. But the reason for that sample is it would take, he says, make crystal clear that the jabs are unsafe.
Wyoming is fighting back.
There are no before and after studies in the U.S.
The move announced on Friday
never will be.
aims to preserve.
Understand. When they did this Thailand study with these kids, they did it using cheap tests that weren't very extensive. So if they got the type of testing that we could do in the United States, it would show that these children that got the jab in Thailand suffered greater cardiac injury than the story even leads on or leads on. He says if you do a cardiac MRI on all these kids, you're going to find stuff that you will not find using the cheap and easy tests. And he says maybe a lot of stuff. Sadly, the summary is, or the conclusion, I believe that the actual rate of heart injury, he says, from these jabs will be found to be well over the 29.7% rate of heart damage in the Thailand study. At a more conservative 20% injury rate, we are looking at, again, 50 million Americans with heart damage thanks to the jab. And many of those Americans, sadly, are some of our pilots. And the FAA is essentially admitting there's been cardiac damage to many of our pilots by raising the level of vaccine. Dang, it's hard to do it, Gabe. Raising the level of cardiac injury that's being done. Again, the FAA secretly widened the EKG parameter for pilots. They secretly did it. All right, guys, listen. This is our state of affairs. We cannot give up on this country. To me, some of the biggest threats to this country right now that we're battling are, for one, what they did to us with these jabs and these lockdowns. That cannot go unpunished. There cannot be probation for that. There can't be a slap on the wrist. We have to get to the bottom of this. What they did with the Russia collusion hoax, what they did with J6, and the mostly peaceful protesters that are being held as political prisoners, what they are doing to our money, to destroy our economy, to destroy the middle class. This is something, these are the things that we cannot stop talking about, as well as many of the cultural issues that some of you might be scared to talk about, but we need to. We need to be willing to talk about abortion, because it won't be long until we're talking about euthanasia for people like they do in Canada that simply can't get medicine. Maybe they're too old, maybe they're lonely, and Canada just wants to get rid of them instead of keeping them on the socialist dole. So they're like, just off yourself. If you don't think that's coming here, think again. Think again. A good way to start fighting that and valuing life is to fight for the most innocent amongst us, and that are babies in the womb, in and out of the womb, frankly. All right, guys, I appreciate you listening. And of course, we got to know if our freaking president is corrupt. I personally think so, but that's very important, right? He's a national security threat. If this guy is beholden to China, if he's beholden to Iran, if he's beholden to Ukraine, a lot of money going to Ukraine right now. If he's beholden to Ukraine, if he's beholden to the UK and their woke agenda, we should know about it, because that guy in the White House is a national security threat. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I really do. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever it is found. Again, please go to our YouTube channel. We need subscribers there. I'm just being honest with you. We need subscribers at our Rumble channel, thecarljacksonshow.com, on both or at both of those locations. Hey, Instagram, I'm on Instagram. Subscribe there or like us there, share, all that kind of stuff. Follow us there. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. We would really appreciate it. And again, I'm going to put this Substack up from Steve Kirsch on my social media sites, so you have that to look forward to. I encourage you to read the information for yourself and make people aware of this stuff. We've got to start sharing this stuff. What did Barack Obama say in the day? We are the hope that we've been waiting for. All right, well, we are the hope, or we are the answers. We are the solution, I would say. The left are a bunch of hopies. We are the solution that we've been waiting for. Unfortunately, the left aren't a bunch of hopies. Now that I think about it, they're a bunch of communists that are getting stuff done. All right, guys, appreciate it. Until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.